So this has been a great evening, and we've heard a lot of really inspiring talks about very creative solutions. Mine is not one of those. Mine's kind of like a Neil Young song. It starts out depressing and goes downhill from there. But join me now on safari, on coal safari in deepest China. This trip was part of the reporting for my next book, which is called Coal Wars. China's economic miracle was built on coal. China gets 75% of its primary energy from coal. You can't talk about the future of energy without talking about coal, and you can't talk about coal without talking about China. So China is by far the world's largest coal market, and what you should notice about these two charts is that the lines are all going that way except for one, which is Asia, which basically means China. So China produces and consumes about as much coal as the rest of the world combined. And it's continuing to go up. This is world consumption, compared to India and the US, which are the other two, major coal consuming countries. And here's the really scary one. These are various projections for coal consumption in China. It could double by 2030. And if that happens, there is no chance, regardless of how many digital kerosene lamps, no offense to any of our other presenters, or, rickshaws we convert. These are mining fatalities. Going down in China, still almost 1,000 people died in mines in China in 2013. So it's appalling what's happening. And yes, the government is trying to do something about this, basically because of what you see here. This is an airborne toxic event, and I'll buy a beer for anyone who notices that reference. But the prevailing winds blow west out of the interior of Central Asia, and so that's why Beijing, Shanghai are so badly polluted. 1.2 million premature deaths a year from air pollution in China. That's about the equivalent of the population of Dallas dying every year, basically because of coal. So here's emissions, US compared to China. By 2035, China's going to be about double the amount of emissions from the US. This chart is why international climate talks have gone nowhere, basically. So the actions that China takes in the next decade will be critical for the future of both China and the world. If we don't do something about China's coal consumption, we are done. Nothing else matters. So meanwhile, the industry is actually in turmoil, which is kind of a good thing if you're a global person, not if you work in the coal industry in China. Prices are declining, oversupply is rampant. They're trying to close down hundreds of smaller unregulated mines, and it's a bad scene for the people who produce coal in China. Here's the government solution. Move the power plants inland and build these huge ultra-high voltage transmission lines to the coast, which is great for Beijing and Shanghai. It'll clean up the air, but it doesn't do anything for overall emissions. This is Shanxi province, where I spent about a week traveling north to south from Datong to Taiyuan. It's the Appalachia of China. There's nothing else there besides the coal economy. And this is the Qingxiao mine outside of Datong in northern Shanxi province. And as you can see, they don't exactly have the same standards of cleanup, et cetera, as US mines. And this is exactly the kind of mine the government is trying to shut down. It's small, it's dirty, it's inefficient, it's outdated, and there is literally coal piling up outside these mines in Shanxi because they don't have a market for it. And oddly, in China, it's easier to get coal to Shanghai from Australia than it is from the interior of China. This is the Taishan base, which is about the size of Los Angeles. And this is one of those huge coal bases that they're building. And it includes a coal to liquid plant, a couple of chemical plants, a huge power plant, its own railway, et cetera. So this is the rationale for building these coal bases. But again, it's not going to help us as global citizens any if they just move the carbon emissions inland. So this is called the Malaccan Dilemma. All of China's oil basically goes through the Strait of Malacca at Singapore, and that's one choke point. And if a terrorist group sank a tanker in the Strait of Malacca, tomorrow China would run out of oil in about 2 weeks. That's why they're building a huge coal to liquids industry. This is the giant Antai Bao mine, at one time the largest open pit operation in the world, since surpassed by the mines up at Powder River Basin in Wyoming. This is the book. It's about the human drama associated with this effort to reduce or shut down the global coal industry. Comes out next spring. I hope you'll read it. I hope you'll maybe learn something from it, and thanks very much.
Yeah.